Hi, I'm Mike Yanessa. Welcome to another episode of Car Stories here on PCTV. We're here at 525 East High Street, my shop called Wheels of Motion, and we got a lot to talk about tonight. We got some cool cars to show, but I hope you caught last month's show. Last month's show was at the Historical Society, and we talked about Pottstown's rich history of gas stations, automobile shops. The Chadwick was built here, and it was really a good show. We had a great crowd show up for it, and I really enjoyed it. And if you didn't catch it, you can go to actually have Car Stories has its own web channel now, and all the episodes of Car Stories on in there, almost 5 years worth. So if you Google Car Stories or the PCTV network, you can watch all the old shows in case you don't get cable, or if you have friends that live out of town. At any time, you can watch Car Stories. So if you missed any, make sure you check it out on the web. We're always on 8 o'clock on Wednesdays on channel 28, and throughout the week we're on at different times. If you check the Pottstown Mercury, sometimes we're on at 7:30 Thursday or 8 o'clock Saturday. So check it out. If you have a car story or if you want to be on the show, get a hold of me. All these old cars have stories, and it's really neat to share them with everybody because it's fun to reminisce about the old days and how that car has lived for the past 50 years. So make sure you check that out. So I want to thank our sponsor, Eastwood. You see the sign in front of us. We're going to go back in the shop later and talk about some of their tools, but they're up on Shoemaker Road behind Walmart. And I'm surprised that some of the local car guys and people don't realize that we're lucky enough to have Eastwood right here in Pottstown. So if you need that special tool or you need paint, go check them out. They have a lot of tools and things to make the job easier when you're working on your car. So I got a story for you. A few weeks back, a lady and gentleman walked in, older lady and gentleman, and she introduced herself. She said her name was Lucille, and she used to be married to Sam Kaiser Jr. And her husband, who was a car dealer himself, he was 90 years old. He had Cadillac dealers in Temple and Lebanon, and most recently in South Carolina. And they came to see the old shop, and they reminisced, and we talked, and it was just really cool. Nice older gentleman, like I said, 90 years old, and he was sharp as a tack. His father actually worked for General Motors and came up with the slogan, "OK used cars." And he said he remembers as a kid going to displays where the dealers could buy OK stickers, OK signs, and that was his father's brainchild. And then he had shared pictures with me on his phone of him with the brand new Corvette. So they came, they left, it was very nice. A few weeks later, in the mail, I received a picture. And Gus, if you can zoom in on this for me. They shared this picture with me, and it's a picture of Sam Kaiser Jr. and Sam Kaiser Sr. in a '59 Impala convertible. Now, one of the local guys, which I haven't contacted yet, told me that he bought a black '59 convertible here at Kaiser's, and I gotta get a hold of him to see if that's his car. But Sam, she wrote to me, and she said she finds any more pictures, she'll send them to me. Sam Kaiser passed away in 1970, and Sam Jr. passed away in 1980. So most of the people know in this area, they were the people that started this dealership back in the 20s. Sam Kaiser Sr., that is, and then Jr. took over. So again, really nice that they stopped in, spent some time with me, and they really enjoyed seeing the old place, and we're happy to see us doing a good business here in this famous Pottstown landmark. So just wanted to share that with you guys. If you know anybody looking for cars, we have consignment sales in the showroom. We have some new cars, and I have a list of cars that people have given me. 68 Z28, 69 Z28, some newer cars like the Jeep and the Honda that are here in the showroom. And so if you're looking for a car, stop in, and I'll be glad to pass the numbers on to you or try to help you find that car that you need. We really don't deal cars as far as a dealership, but we do it as a courtesy to our customer, and have a little bit of fun trying to help people find the cars that they need. So this is my 38th year in business. I've been in the business for 42 years, but I started my garage in 1979. So I'm proud to have lasted that long, and since we've moved the High Street, our business is doing very well. We're really lucky to be busy, But don't forget, we're a family-owned business. We're not a chain, and I really care about the quality, and I care about every single customer. So just wanted to put that out there because I'm proud that 38 years. I can't believe how fast it went, but it did go. You know, and as a lot of you know, I had gas stations, I had garages, but this is the final stop right here at 525 East High Street. So anyhow, we have a 1936 Ford in our showroom. This is a good friend of mine, George Hansen. Last winter, I did the body and paint on the body itself, and then he took it back and did the mechanical work on it. He did shipped it to the upholsterer, had the upholstery done, and then this winter I did the fenders and some of the accessories, and George and I put it together and got it running. It's a beautiful 1936 Ford Cabriolet. It looks original, but it has some upgrades like power steering, air conditioning, rack and pinion. And George is here tonight. So George, why don't you come over and tell us about this beautiful 36 Ford. Let's see the engine. Tell them what you did.
Well, we took the car all the way down to bare metal,
Right.
and we did you guys did the body work.
And a beautiful body. It was supposedly a California car, and I'm telling you, folks, it was very, very straight. It was very little rust, and it was in good shape. So
it was real good body to start. It's all steel. Mm-hmm. And I put upgrades to. I welded a full floor in. Right. Put a independent Mustang style front end under it with disc brakes and rack and pinion steering.
Right.
Added tilt wheel steering column and electric power steering under the dash.
Okay.
Put the cowl mounted wipers in. Added air conditioning. A little bit better front seat, and I'm sure he'll get some pictures of that. Mm-hmm. And a few other small little things. I can't even think of them now off the top of my head.
Before he did the S10 5-speed transmission, that's been in the car.
Yeah.
But some of the things that he just mentioned were new upgrades. So it has an S10 5-speed transmission. It has a more modern rear. It has disc brakes.
Yep.
So it looks like an old car, but you got the comforts of a new car. But everybody wants to see this flathead motor. Tell us about the flathead and
well, let me open it up. It's a 49 Mercury block with 48 heads and manifold. It's got a Schneider cam in it. It's bored to 3 5/16, 4-inch Mercury crank.
Wow.
Headers, two dual carburetors, the high compression heads, and it's balanced and ported and all the little tricks of the trade to do the flathead, and it makes pretty good power. I cut down the Chevrolet distributor and put it in the flathead, and that triggers an MSD. And I added air conditioning to the car. I don't know if we mentioned that before, but air conditioning.
Yep, that's the pump up front there. I see it. Very nice mount. Why do they call it a flathead? I mean, why?
Well, the valves are in the block.
Right. Okay.
Versus the overhead engines, the later, more recent modern engines are overhead valve. The valves are in
the head's just a piece of metal on top of the block.
It's just a piece of metal. It's
right.
With the chambers in it, the combustion chamber and the spark plugs, and all the valves and the porting are all in the block.
Right.
It's.
And what do you think horsepower? I mean, what did it have new, and what do you think it had?
Well, original 36 was 85 horse.
Right.
The 49 Mercury engine, I think, was about 100 or 105, something like that.
Yep.
And with all the modifications to this, conservatively, it's probably 160 or 70 horse.
That's great.
It's enough horsepower and torque to drive the car in today's traffic without having a problem. You don't have to shift it all the time or anything like that. It pulls really nice.
Right. And with the S10 5-speed, you have overdrive.
5-speed
awesome.
really makes it nice because it's got a very low first and second gear, and then with the overdrive gear and fifth, you can cruise on the highway at 70 mile an hour no problem.
Right, and then you have the brakes and the steering to handle the horsepower. It's kind of a, when you build these things, you know, you put all this horsepower in them, then you can't stop the car, you know. So George did it right, and he's had the car for a number of years and constantly was improving it. But this time it just went, you know, over the top. I mean, it's everything you could dream of as far as a cool old car that is a pleasure to drive. So we'll get some cutaways of the interior then, and tell us about some of the stuff that nobody else has, like these hubcaps.
Well, yeah,
I love the hubcaps.
I bought that's a custom hubcap that they do produce the hubcap without the flipper. I made the flippers at home, polished them up, and mounted them on the hubcap myself. It wasn't totally my idea. I have seen one set like that before in my lifetime, only once, and when I really liked it, so I made myself a set.
When he came to a show, I was at a show, and they do flip when the sun hits them. You can see those things twinkle. They don't do justice sitting here still, but when you see the car moving, it's really, really cool. You know.
I made when he gets a cutaway of the interior. Yep. I made the bottom of the dash, the extension on the dash that builds the air conditioner in, and the radio and some switches and things. I made the pedal pads. I manufactured them wipers in the cowl like that. That looks nice. They were above the windshield before.
Right.
That turned out real well.
And you got radial tires on it.
Radial tires. Yep.
All right. Well, it looks really good, George. You did a good job, and I appreciate all.
Well, I want to thank Wheels in Motion, Mike and Colin and Jeff and Frank. Yep. They all helped on the car at some point in time. Mike did most of the work. Colin did some of the metal work. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate you guys doing a good job. And I love it.
It was a pleasure doing the car. And like, you know, you look at this, and he'll tell you every time I do a car, I kept looking at it and looking at it. Just so the designs, and you'll see in some of the cutaways, the tail lights, the fenders. We didn't mess with any of the traditional designs because a 36 Ford is one of the prettiest bodies you can buy. Yeah. So it was a pleasure to do, and like I remember polishing it and sanding it and just looking at it. Like it's just a beautiful, beautiful car. So thanks for bringing her in for Car Stories, and Gus, you can get some pictures of it and show them what it looks like. So anyhow, if you've ever been at Wheels in Motion, you probably met my son Nick. He runs the front counter. I'm usually in the back working. Well, Nick hasn't been here all week because Mary and Nick had a baby girl yesterday, Aurora Rose, 8 pounds, 9 ounces, like the sign says, at Pottstown Hospital. So Nick's a daddy. So, of course, Mom and I, Kelly and I, are proud as can be to have another little Yanessa girl, because we have two grandchildren with my oldest son, and now Aurora Rose, a day old today. So. And when you come in and see Nick, make sure you congratulate him, because he's really going to be a good dad. So the name Wheels in Motion, that was the name we came up with years ago when Nick and my other son Jimmy were young, thinking that we do anything with wheels. And we get a lot of calls for wheels. People think we're a wheel shop. Yes, we do sell wheels, but that's not our primary business. But we do sell wheels, American Racing and Ion, and one of the brands we picked up is ET. ET is a wheels going back to I guess the late 50s, 60s, and the company's still in business in California. And the neatest thing about this company is they make any offset you want of a 5-spoke wheel. This is a traditional 5-spoke wheel. It's 12 inches wide, 8 inches out, 4 inches in. I had them special made. It's got a big sticky tire on it, and these are the new wheels for Big Red. Big Red always had big tires on the back, but not this big. These tires actually were on the car on a 10-inch wheel, but now they'll be tucked under the fender deeper, not tubbed, but they'll be tucked in a little bit, and these cool 5-spokes will be on Big Red when it's done. Everybody's asking me how Big Red's going. It's going slow. We found a lot more hidden damage, and let's go back and we'll take a look at it, and brace yourself, because she's looking pretty bad, but she'll be good as new someday. So we're back in the shop, and we're at the frame machine where Big Red is being rebuilt. And I just wanted to share this with you, this Eastwood plasma cutter. If you're not familiar with a plasma cutter, it is a air-operated electric, and it cuts metal. And it cuts metal precisely. Like, you know, there's no filing, no rough edges like a cutting torch. And we needed it to cut apart Big Red to do all these welds. So plasma cutter, Eastwood has them. They're very affordable. And go up there if you need one and pick one up, because they're really handy when it comes to metal work. You can cut out intricate designs. You can cut out spot welds. They're really, really a nice tool. So the Eastwood plasma cutter. And now, here's Big Red. I've been sharing this each month that we do the show, and we've been cutting it apart. And of course, the inner rocker was bent, the rocker was bent. We saw that, but when we took it apart, more damage. This body mount was ripped off the firewall. This side of the car, the roof was raised about 1 inch, because when this hit on the rocker, it pushed all the metal up. Metal has to go somewhere. It's either going to crack, bend, or just distort. Well, this one went all the way up. You can tell because the space between the roll bar inside of the roof, there was about 1 inch difference. Right now, this jack here is holding up the roof, and it's down to the solid part of the frame, but the rest of the car is not too strong. There's a lot of loose metal. So Jeff Morse, he's doing all the structural work because he is the best, and he's got to make sure that he gets all the sheet metal in place. It all gets screwed. You don't weld anything yet. It all gets screwed, and we measure. We measure side to side. For example, we measure from where your dome light button is, and this to this side was pushed in about 3/4 of an inch. So it was pushed in 3/4 of an inch, and the roof was raised about 1 inch. You can see here where the dashboard ripped. That's an indication that something moved. So I ordered a whole new, originally we were just going to put this piece in, but now we found out that this whole thing is twisted, and this is pushed up. So I ordered a whole new piece all the way up to the top of the roof. Of course, the car gets a new roof, gets new quarters, putting new floors in the front, new inner rocker, new outer rocker. So again, when you tear into these projects, even the most experienced people, you find more. When we do restorations, the estimate is a couple $1,000s. It's very easy to add a couple thousand more once you get into the project. For example, this floor was wrinkled. I know for a fact this floor was thin years ago. It had pinholes in it, and I fiberglassed them shut. Well, it's, I don't know, $50 for a new piece of floor. While we're here, we might as well put the new floor in rather than trying to straighten an old rusty one. And then, like I said, the body mount, the body bushing, this was all distorted. Jeff's got that all straight. He's got it all screwed in place, not welded yet until he gets the rocker and what we call the A-pillar and the hinge post. And then measure, measure, measure. The car is right now on blocks. It's normally on pinch weld clamps, okay? Once he's done doing what he's doing, he puts it back on the pinch weld clamps, squares it to the deck, and then does all his measurements so that you're working with a level body on a level surface and there's no distortion. Right now it's jacked up. The car is not level. He needed to do that, the access to replace the rocker. So let's go around the other side of the car and you'll see what we did. That side was a lot easier, and we got that looking pretty good. So when I did this car in 1985, there was literally no reproduction parts, no floor pans, no cowls. Right now you can buy a whole Camaro and put it together in pieces, because they do. They sell new bodies that, so you know, you can recreate a Camaro from nothing. And you can see this cowl was rusty and dented, and you can see years ago I patched it up and filled it up because that's all we had back then. I didn't even have a MIG welder back in 1984. You know, it was put in with torches or rivets. Rivets are in this one. So that's an early patch. Down here, if you look at this rocker, has quite a bit of all metal, which we still use today. And this was the first car I used all metal on in 1984. And you can see all metal and Bondo, okay? Jeff had looked at it and wondered what was going on, and he peeled it off, and I had a big hunk of filler on that rocker. Why I did that is the bottom of the door sticks out. The rest of the door fits fine. This is all good, even when I did the car the first time. Reason being, when my wife bought this car for $180, this whole side was sideswiped, and I didn't know back then, but we know now because of measuring, that this rocker was actually pushed in. You can see it in here where it's buckled. So that's why I had to do that back in the 80s to make it fit flush with the door. Of course, this time we're going to fix the rocker. We're not putting a new one on because it's nice and solid, but we're going to fix this rocker so it comes out with the door. We hung the new door, reproduction door, fits very nice. We hung the new quarter panel. There's no inner structure back here yet, but it's coming. And again, everything is screwed, not welded, and measure, measure, measure to make sure it's okay. This side of the car is on the pinch weld clamps yet, so it is level to the deck. So we got our lines, we got fitment, we got it up under the roof. When the car's down on the ground, we're going to put a new roof skin on it because the roof is in bad shape. But this side of the car went fairly easy. The other side of the car, a little more complicated. So that's the update on Big Red. It is coming along slowly, and I can't wait. I can't wait till it's all shiny red again. And remember the big wheels I showed you in the showroom? They're going to be tucked in under the fender. Not tubbed, but they'll be tucked in that they're not hanging out. And in a future show, I'll show you what we're doing back here to get the tire clearance. So how about this one here? Does anybody know what it is? Well, the correct name is a 1953 Chevrolet Handy Man Wagon. Now, a Handy Man Wagon in 55, 6, and 7 was a two-door. But I haven't been able to find out the answer. If anybody knows what determines this as a handyman, but it's a 53 150. That's a bare bones wagon. It has no options. Well, it has a few, but it's not the deluxe wagon. The deluxe wagon was a 9-passenger. Some of them had wood grain on the side. They were fancier. They had more chrome down the side. But actually, in today's world, this car is worth more than the deluxe wagon because they were so rare. This is a 44,000-mile original car. The fancier cars had stainless steel here. This is rubber. Has no chrome on the sides, little hubcaps, 6-cylinder, 3-speed on the tree. Now, what's the name of my show? Car Stories. I named my show, I thought of a couple different names like Car Talk and different ones. I named it Car Stories. And then I realized after I named it that all these old cars have a story. I mean, very, very few don't, you know. This one, when I had the Texaco at Farmington and Wilson, this older gentleman that bought this new used to come in there for service. I always admired it just because it was so unique. You do not see them. All my years of doing this, I've never seen one. This is the only one. He lived up on Hanover Street. His name was Chris Hollenbach. He is the gentleman that had the farm at the end of Hanover Street, and he sold the land or donated the land to the school where the new Pottsgrove Middle School is. That was his farm. And then eventually he passed away, and he left this car to his daughter. And she had it for a number of years. And only a few weeks ago, well, actually it was Memorial Day weekend, right? They had an auction because the mother passed away and the father had passed away about 5 years ago. And they auctioned the property, they auctioned the house, and they auctioned this car off. I know the grandson. He had called me up and just told me, hey, if you know anybody. And I said, well, I might be interested in it, you know. So I went out and I remembered the car from when I was a kid, of course, and I went and looked at it and I'm like, man, this thing is in pretty good shape. I mean, it was repainted a number of years ago. It has all new chrome on it, but the rest of the car, the interior, the seats, the front mat is original. No radio, no heater, vacuum wipers, no lighter, no ashtray, no options, except a few I'll tell you about in a minute. So I went to the auction and it was a beautiful day. I'm not a big auction person, and I always tell people when you buy these cars, don't get emotional. Buy with your head, you know. But this was a car I really wanted, and the price went up higher than I thought it would go, and I just wanted to buy the car because of the history. I talked to the grandson, I talked to some of the sons, they shared stories with me, car stories, about how their grandpop and them went deer hunting, and they had 4 deer strapped across the roof, and the game warden pulled them over, and their identification and their permits to hunt were deep buried in the back of the wagon in suitcases. They had to unpack the wagon. And I talked to all these people, and I said, well, where did he buy it at? Well, we don't really know. I said, is there any paperwork with the car? Well, no, we haven't found any, but if we do, we'll let you have it, of course. And like I said, I wound up, there's one person on the internet that ran the price way up, but I just wanted the car because it is, you know, it was sentimental, and it was a car that I always admired. The one person I didn't talk to was the other brother. I just, you know, he was busy and I didn't have a chance to chat with him, but I talked to the grandson, I talked to the other grandson, and so forth. So I go to the notary, and the notary has the paperwork to do the title, and she says, here, I have an envelope for you. And she gives me this envelope, and in the envelope is the original brochure, the original bill of sale, all the some pictures of the car, the original title, copy of the title, and guess where it was bought? Kaiser Chevrolet, 525 High Street, right where we're at now. So it was like a total bonus when I bought the car, and the kids were saying that, hey, he probably bought it at Dames or Kaiser's because he did all his business locally. And then when I went to do the title work, there was the surprise. So here's a picture of the paperwork that came with the car. So anyway, there's the paperwork. I mean, unbelievable. Another Kaiser Chevrolet car. And I brought it back to the shop. It had a couple dings and dents in it. I had the dent guy work out a couple dents. We did brakes, wheel cylinders, master cylinder. The tires aren't that old. They're a reproduction tire, but they're like 8 or 10 years old, and they're fine, so we didn't have to put tires on it. Cleaned it up, shined it up, serviced it, and I drove it home last week. Beautiful, beautiful driving car. Has a couple rattles yet I got to fix, and the dome light doesn't work. But the glass is all original, the seats are all original. About the worst thing on the interior is the back mat was disintegrated. I saved the front mat, but took very little to get it going, and tuned it up, changed the oil, that kind of stuff. But just a neat car, you don't see them. So the 53 Handy Man Wagon lives here at its original home, 525 High Street. So here is the paperwork that came with the 53. That's the original perfect condition owner's manual. There's some pictures of it when it was sitting in the barn at the guy that bought it new, Mr. Hollenbach. And then a copy of the original title. So it only went from him to his daughter, so it stayed in the family. And then the beautiful car papers folder that Kaiser Chevrolet put all the paperwork in and wrote on there 53 Handy Man Wagon, his name, his address. And then the bill of sale. And there's the bill of sale, perfect condition. And actually, the 9-passenger wagon, other than the Corvette, was the most expensive car, Chevrolet, in 1953. It was like $2,300. That was the Townsman, really good wagon. This cheap one, though, had a base price of $2,125, okay? And then there was options installed here at Kaiser Chevrolet. The heater and defroster, $90. Antifreeze, $675. Backup lights, $10. Undercoating, $40. And two-tone paint, $11.42. Boy, that doesn't even buy the sandpaper to sand a car today. But I'm not sure yet what was two-toned. I mean, obviously when it was repainted all green. So, and none of the kids could remember. They always remembered it shortly after he owned the car, he had it painted all green. So, don't know if the roof was a light green or the bottom was light green, but I'll find out. I mean, there's some evidence when I start, looking. But so there was a total of about $296 in options, and the total price of the car was $23.21, and he traded in an international pickup truck, and they allowed him $296.17. So he owed $2,000 and a quarter, and he paid cash. So 11/10/1953, right here. And that to me means, you know, a lot. I mean, paperwork with any classic car adds to the value, but even with the value and the, you know, sentimental value, it's just unbelievable, you know. So, well, once again, we're out of time on Car Stories. I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure you tune in, tell your friends, and I'll see you next month right here on PCTV with another car story.